Hello and welcome back to Verbose Mode by TaxCare at Basel 1 2025. My next guest is Aicha. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Aicha, your talk is about green programming in Java.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about it. Maybe we can start with people talk a lot about green programming and how important it is. Is there a real difference? Is there a real impact?
Well, yes. First thing first, people, you need to know why we're doing this. Well, you need only to remember two numbers. First thing is the global electricity consumption of our field is 7% of the total all the energy in the world being used. And the second is the carbon emission. Our tech field produce 4% of the global electricity, and that's double than the airline industry. So of course we need to reduce that impact. And how could if it has really if those changes that we do with green programming has some real impacts? We have some examples for the Green Foundation. It's a company that's got to reduce almost 30% of the electricity just by adapting green programming, green algorithms that use lower computational complexity and using fewer resources. And that 40% could power 200 homes for 1 year.
Wow, that's
Yes.
a lot. Yeah, so there is definitely impact. It makes sense. The next question is, do we need to sacrifice a lot to achieve those savings? Will our life, our software, our processes be worse off if we're going to reduce the consumption and this kind of stuff?
Actually, no, it's the opposite. Because clean code is the first step for green code. You already need to have a solid base, a solid clean code, and the only tweaks that you have to do is to check that your algorithms, for example, doesn't have to be only faster, but to not drain resources. And some examples if you are using the right garbage collection and see if it's really not wasting resources, not having some long waiting time, posit time, and so on. So you need also, for example, you have your cleanest code, and you need to deploy it on the cloud because you have to control on your resources. So the green code, it doesn't have to sacrifice the performance. It's the opposite. You have to keep your performance. You have to keep your stability. You have to boost it even further, but with less resources.
That sounds like a win-win.
Yes.
All right. So one thing I love to do is ask for top 3.
Okay.
So give me top 3 tips on how we can write greener code and better code in Java tomorrow.
Okay, first thing first, don't rely on the JVM option defaults. Sometimes, for example, since I mentioned the garbage collector, you can adjust those options. For example, you could have the heap size, you could specify it. Don't rely on the default one because our programs run differently. And we have specific cases, specific numbers, we have only to use what we need. Second tips is about the memory management. And it's actually the simplest one. For example, something if you want to build a string from a lot of strings by adding it, try to avoid the string concatenation because every time we change a string, we add a character or another string to it, we're creating another object because they are immutable objects. You could use a simple string builder, and right now, whatever you're adding 1 millionth character to your phrases, the garbage collection will deal only with one object instead of 1,000,001 objects. And the third is monitor. Please, every time you try to have a change, try to monitor it to see if it's really where are your sources are going, if there are some leaks, if there are some memory that are adjusting, they are memory stress, CPU heavy operation. And by this you could use Java micro harness. It's really good at pinpointing, isolating each method and telling you how much resources this method could really have, or this is what I can say.
This is brilliant. This is something that it makes tons of sense for various reasons. saving resources is only one of them, but if it can be a very nice side effect of improving performance and actually costing less, right? This is also a very nice effect of all those optimizations.
Indeed. And additionally, since I talked only about the green programming, but what about the cloud? For the cloud, you could also this is what I talked about in my session, it's about the auto-scaling. Let Kubernetes use it for better resource management and advance it with more auto-scaling, like horizontal pod auto-scaler. Sometimes because there are a lot peak hours and there are off-peak hours. You cannot keep the same numbers of pods running on the same time. You'll either suffer the over-provisioning or under-provisioning. And this is where the HPA will make sure that you have the right number of pods. You need, for example, specify the average utilization for the CPU. If it's over 30%, it will create more pods. And if it's less than 30%, it will went back to the 1 pods or 2. It depends on the minimum replica and the maximum replica used.
This is excellent. Is there a way, either built in on the cloud or maybe our own scheduling that we can come up that will optimize towards the right electricity, how do you say, plan, right? So it will consume more off-peak hours and less in peak hours.
Yes, that's what HPA do. The auto-scaling in general, this is what it do. The HPA, the horizontal pod autoscaler, tells you how much numbers of pods you need. It scale depending always on the traffic. And we have the VPA, the vertical pod autoscaler. It's still on the pod size, on the pod level, it tells you how much resources needed, how much CPU in memory every pod needs. And that's it will prevent, as for example, a pod could have too many resources, preventing other pods from working. And it's this is where we have a balance between the traffic and the resources, that we only use what we need. And we also have requests and limits that we could set in our deployments. A request, it will tell us the limits of resources and the CPU and the memory a cluster could use, and the minimum and the maximum could use, so to prevent really going over the cost. And yes, this is something you could tell your boss. We can reduce bills, because this is what they will listen first. If you tell them about environmental impact, they will think it's a woke movement. When for a fact, green programming, it's about practical
This is a very good point. So yes, you help the environment, you do the right thing, but you also don't compromise the business goals or the economy of the company, and actually helps the company to reduce the bills and to optimize resources.
Indeed.
It's a win-win.
Exactly.
Excellent. Aicha, thank you very much. That was very enlightening and very interesting, and I learned a lot. Our audience learned a lot as well. Thank you for joining us, and you all stay tuned for more episodes of the Verbose Mode by TaxCare at Basel 1 very, very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.